Trim support via Dm-Crypt/device mapper. Getting a new laptop with SSD tomorrow. I need to know about the current status of Dm-Crypt and trim. I have seen several conflicting reports, and most activity around this question seems to be is greater than 1 year old. Some say that Dm-Crypt trim pass-through has been included in multiple recent kernel versions, which is not a problem for me, since I use Arch. Some say that the support still does not exist. Can I get a clear, well-sourced answer on the status of Dm-Crypt trim support? Git commits or mailing list announcements that mention this feature would be ideal. The answer to this question has big potential to influence the way I architect my new laptop's disks. Hopefully it will be useful to some others to have a decent, up-to-date answer.
According to this post, my question is, what happens if a Dm-Crypt layer is between the file system and the real block device? Will the trim be passed through, or will it be discarded? I'd guess it will be passed through. I'm using BTRFS on a SSD which is encrypted with Lux DMCRYPT, and it works great. BTRFS uses at a trim quite a while. You might also need discard in mount options of the file system.
Well, there's this thread, this URL, and this tool. This URL? I haven't used it yet, but I'm also interested in this problem.
For the record, this functionality did not exist when I first posted this question. I asked on the mailing list and was informed by Milan Braz that discard pass-through for Dm-Crypt targets still had not been implemented. Milan indicated that he intended to implement this at some point, but did not state when. After digging around in dmcrypt.c and related files for a while, it appeared that trim support would be fairly trivial to add. I wrote the list asking for their general advisement on the task before I jumped in. The next day, Milan submitted a patch that implements trim pass-through on Dm-Crypt, and this has been staged into Linux Next. It should be included in the Linux 3.1 kernel. Trim pass-through must be enabled explicitly. There are potential security issues in using trim on a Dm-Crypted device, because trim sends information about block usage to the firmware on the device, which then marks recently freed areas as usable, as I understand it anyway. This means that an interested party can derive information about patterns of disk usage. For instance, it was postulated that an attacker could almost definitely learn what file system was in use on the encrypted medium through this data. An attacker may also be able to learn more useful information, like that you had a lot of big files saved until recently, big contiguous trimmed blocks. Please see these threads for reference. This URL. This URL. This URL. TLDR, trim pass-through support for Dm-Crypt targets will exist in Linux is greater than or equal to 3.1 but must be enabled manually via crypt setup and or DM setup due to data leakage that may allow profiling based on disk usage patterns.
As of kernel 3.2.x, Dm-Crypt plus BRTFS is supposed to be safe. See the reply to my question from Chris Mason. This URL. And this URL.